automatic arms that the Commission was looking to go forward with. The B priority items are there. We've tried to modify them in some way. And what was helpful at the meeting was we identified that there was about $15,000 worth of what we were trying to slip in as capital really should have been perhaps expense items. So these are the kinds of things we're going to have to try and work into the 2012 budget if we possibly can.
Are we planning on that? Because capital has always been a back and forth with this commission.
Well, I have a question which dovetails with the sensitivity of Rye, because since capital is somewhat shared between the town and the city of Rye, just going into this, how does this dovetail with your, I guess, proposed budget? Have you voted yet?
Tomorrow night.
That's what I thought. So I guess in some ways that's important, because if you don't budget for any of this, then...
That's what Scott should have shared with Bishop.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, he did share a number with me. I don't know if you want to share it before your vote or not.
It was a round number.
It was a round number, yes.
Yes, a round number.
Traditionally, the city of Rye has funded capital through surplus or reserve fund. Right? Rye Town Park doesn't have a reserve fund, and so it would have to be through surplus. Now, our own city capital projects, we're only budgeting about $300,000, and that's usually state aid for roads. We're not doing any capital projects other than ones that have already been funded. Our concern is that, again, it's a 2% tax cap, and we've spoken with Assemblyman Latimer that this board should have the same supermajority override that the rest of the boards are have to deal with, that if we are to override a 2% increase in our spending, that we should have a supermajority to vote on that. And so, for example, if you take our capital budget and add 2%, that's generally, or our operating budget, that's generally what we would be looking for in terms of increases. So that's $20,000, right? Because that's what we're doing at the city level.
Yeah, necessarily. That makes sense.
I just feel strongly that I don't think we could forego health and safety issues at the beach or the park, especially in light of the fact we're trying to bring more people to that facility. These are items that have been delayed for a very long period of time. We've been talking about establishing a reserve fund for capital budgets, and I'm just afraid that we continue going forward without putting some money in reserve or even itemizing some of the work to be done, that we're going to be asking for more than it's worth.
Or bond for it and take it out of operating.
I don't know if it's bond.
We don't have the ability to bond. Under the state law, the funding for, be it subsidy or be it capital, falls to the two entities. So the city of Rye, whatever subsidies are there, the city of Rye and the town of Rye would have to fund.
Rye can bond for this.
But, it's only the municipality that can bond. The Rye Town Park Commission does not have the ability to bond.
But if Rye does, here's my question, and I don't know the answer. If Rye is saying we're not going to do it, what happens, and I'm listening to what Commissioner Salanitra says, and I agree, there are health and safety issues. Who then picks up the slack legally when one entity is not able to, for whatever reason, and no one ever contemplated a tax cap, a tax levy cap, and the like? What happens then? It's just
I think with all due deference, you are an attorney and probably know more than I.
The reason I'm against the tax levy cap because it is flawed the way it's drafted, without mandate relief. I shouldn't go on.
Mayor Feinstein,
my soapbox.
My unqualified response is that the answer is that you close the park.
Okay,
If you can't repair the roof in a bathroom or a structure, then you're going to put caution tape up. I'm sorry you can't use this bathroom because we don't have the money to repair it. When you can't repair the seawall, people will then be cordoned off that you cannot use the pavilion. You can't use the pavilion because the structure is unsafe. So this goes back to a long discussion, probably about 15 years old, and unfortunately I've lived through this, both on the outside and on the inside, is that the argument is always made that, the park's for the people. Then the argument is made that we need to be fiscally responsible and run the park lean and not necessarily make a profit, but not necessarily, give a bill to the town of Rye and to the city of Rye every year for $400,000, $500,000. So there has to be a responsible balance in between, okay? And, fortunately for me, I'm here few and far between with you, but this is, you're charged, this board is charged with an awesome task of trying to make this work. And, it's, at the end of the day, the public is going to really have to get behind this board and do what we can to make this park work. So that's the answer. If we're not going to put money into the park, then you're going to start to see the amenities, start to go away. And when the opportunity to have concerts at the park and all this things that are happening, the sculptures that you do there, all of this is all great, but it takes a toll, and we have to reinvest in it.
I don't disagree with you. I guess I'm asking the rhetorical question is, I agree with you. You have to keep it up. If it's an amenity, you want people to use it. I'm only asking the reality question,
We
which
did
is,
budget $75,000. I was talking about designated for capital. We didn't break that out. We said $75,000 for any operating loss or capital needs for the park.
Combined.
Which means we can't lose another $150,000 next year and
Exactly.
expect to pay for capital. So
which means,
that could include operating. If the town of Rye wanted to go out and bond for $100,000 and include the carrying cost of that into the operating
And
budget,
that is a good opportunity.
of which the city then pays a portion of that, right, from the 75 that we budgeted. There's some financial modeling you can look at, but beyond 75K, I believe all that should go to capital, and we should be running at a break even, but you know how that's worked out.
well, that means, quite honestly, we're not up there. That means we're going to have to be leaner and meaner on the expense side.
And we have.
And we're going to have to be even more so. Which is, right. We get back full circle to the
You're right.
issues.
Mayor Phillip.
Two quick things. One is we might take some of these priority A items, the required health and safety capital investments, and relate it to that RFP we just spoke about to say, hey, we need an investment to do this, and in kind consideration for
A great idea.
that contribution, there's something that we would extend, right? So it could be considered as part of that public-private partnership. The second, and respectfully, I don't want to tell the town how they should spend their money, but if the town does have undesignated fund balance position, and I see that you guys have appropriated oodles of it before, maybe, and the accountant's not here, but maybe it's possible to kind of do that as a loan that would be offset by either anticipated revenue or some sort of a, interest-bearing repayment schedule.
We don't have reserve from the city side. We're at our minimum.
Yeah, that I had read
Yeah,
about,
that-
actually, and I don't know what the town's
don't either.
position is, but those are two, possible creative solutions that I could just throw
Okay.
out there.
Okay, moving on. I guess the...
You read that someplace? You read that someplace? It gets around.
Coming into the new business, and I think this, we can discuss it if it needs to be discussed, but it appears that two new items. The first one is a rough draft of the new park operations manual, and I believe the town board received this recently, correct?
Well, we put this in your packet. This is just the very, what I would call the very first draft.
Okay.
The staff, over this past year, the staff has done a lot of documentation of varying things, varying pieces of the operation. What we are trying to do now is our hope is to gather all of this, put it into some logical sequence, so that we will have an operating manual at the end of the day that anybody, even I, could grab that manual and more or less run the park, because everything will be in there. All right, by department, staffing, job descriptions, operating procedures, safety plans, contact information, contract information, all of that will be located in here. And we will make a gift of it to the commissioners once it's complete.
Very good. Any comment from the board?
I just think it's
Great thing.
I haven't had time to go through it, really, but I think it's a wonderful undertaking to do this, and I can see that it's very detailed.
Well, it's a joint effort between Fred Joffrey, Bill Lawyer, Greg Arcaro, and the rest of the staff is obviously taking their independent sections and doing that. So I think everybody's bought in. It's a great idea. We hope to be able to have it completed maybe by April if we can.
Mayor French.
No, I thought it was an excellent document, excellent read while I'm on the exercise bike. But I think rather than just a comprehensive document, I think we should be looking at it from policy changes, things that we should be doing differently. Maybe we're over-engineered in certain aspects of the park. I think it's a great way for us to, in the next month or two, provide thoughts where we can change maybe expectations in the new year.
Well, this is one of the reasons why we wanted to share the draft with you as it is right now.
Very good.
Okay?
Okay, the next document and last on the agenda is the information received from Pond Management Proposal for discussion and review. Mr. Lawyer.
Just want to say that most of you, I think, are familiar with the history of the pond at Rytown Park and the things that have gone on since this pond in its current entity was created in 2004, 2005. It's now 6 years later, and as a mature pond, we've had issues having to do with the balance of the algae and the other aquatic plants and somewhat of an imbalance causing problems with oxygen levels, nitrogen levels, phosphorus levels. So last year, actually I guess the last 2 years, we contracted with a person who does basically one type of treatment that involves putting a heavy metal, copper, cuprin it's called. It's a copper type of copper material that's put into a liquid form, dumped in. This is like, in some ways, it's better than nothing, but it really doesn't address the issues of the pond or look at actually what's going on in the pond in a systematic way. And with the help of the Friends of Rytown Park, we've been sort of spelling out some more of the details of what we really wanted the pond to be. In a sense, the pond should have its own mission statement, that the purpose of the pond, as it was paid for by a large grant from the state of New York, was to provide wildlife habitat enrichment, and therefore enriching the experience of people coming to the park, being able to see the wildlife, to see the habitats, the different kinds of plants and animals that are associated with the park. And to a certain extent, that's been very successful. There's been an overabundance, unfortunately, of non-wildlife, the ducks, that tend to create issues and problems of the balance of the pond. But our goal is to move forward in this and make it more of an educational process. And so we've started looking around for other potential partners in terms of somebody who would help manage the pond, primarily as a outside contractor with some assistance with the park's own staff, minimal as it is. And so we came up with, we identified this group called the Pond and Lake Connection. They operate out of Connecticut, but they do a lot of work in the Westchester area. In fact, the Rye Golf Club uses them, Appowamus Club does, and I haven't been able to get references from everybody, but I've gotten phone calls in, and I did speak to the guys at the Appowamus Club, and they said that they've been using them for many years and are very pleased with their reliability and their knowledge. So this was the way the presentation looked that I got. You have a sort of a digital version of it that you got from an email attachment. We wanted to at least introduce this to the commission at this meeting. And one of the main reasons for that is, just like we have deadlines for everything, there are crucial deadlines in terms of pond management getting permits from the state DEC, and I guess there's a federal permit also, because Long Island Sound is a federally, waterway as well as a state waterway. So the deadline basically is February 1st in order to get the applications in. Now, we could do them ourselves, or we could do them with somebody else, but I thought that it would be useful to go over this, at least somewhat with you at this meeting, because whatever we're going to do, we should do it by the January meeting, because I think that way it would be ready to go for the December 1st. Now, so I don't know if you had a chance to read it or not. I mean, I could go over the highlights, or we could just skip to the questions if you'd rather do that.
Bill, we should find out if if the proposal includes any harvestation, if they're going to harvest any of the biomass that falls to the bottom of the pond?
No, it doesn't.
Because that's
They,
going to be another concern over a period of time, is that
Well, we
you have
discussed that.
accumulated material at the bottom.
We did discuss that at the meeting that we had, and one of the suggestions that they made was that there are organic bacterial treatments that they would consider using, and what all this really is once you balance your pond and you stratify your water properly, you then feed bacteria into the water, and the bacteria will then digest the sludge at the bottom of the pond.
Yes. In fact, that's part of this proposal that they presented. The
Right.
One thing that they didn't get into that you don't have, which I just got myself today, was a breakdown of the different materials that they're going to be using, one of which is the bacteria that eat the microscope, the
Right.
small sediment, what they call particulate matter that's in the water. Now, this is very similar to the way they do treatment at a sewage treatment plant. They also use bacteria there, and it's a tried and true. And in fact, they point out that you don't even need a permit for it because it's not toxic.
Right.
So Bill, let's talk to how this affects ultimately the taxpayers and this board, talking about our finances. We're seeing that there would be an initial investment, one-year investment of $7,400, and potential maintenance every year of about $3,500.
You're including the aerators.
Yeah, no, the aerators are a one-time.
what I said.
Yeah.
I said the initial investment
Right.
is $7,400, and then an annual investment of about $3,500.
We wouldn't necessarily have to go with the aerators the first year. We have aerators there. We have a system that's certainly it's not perfect. It's possible that we could do the other things, see how our aerators, because I know that one of the issues with the aerators, we weren't able to use them all at the same time because of the limited electrical service. So even if we got new aerators from them, we'd still have that same electrical problem.
Okay.
So I would say, I would recommend, at least for now, that we at least go with the proposal, assuming that we check out their references and feel confident. And I don't want to speak for the Friends of Rye Town Park, but in the past, they have split the cost with us.
Okay,
So if that's something you're planning to do again, then you're talking about a minimal amount of money.
Okay, so with regards to this, the DEC and the federal permits, the deadline has to be to them by February 1st, correct?
Right.
Okay, so that being said, and then this is only one proposal that you've received?
Well, we have another proposal that we got actually a year ago, which we didn't act on at that time because we went one more year with the company that we were working with, which was actually more expensive than this. Now, if the board wants us to come up with a third, assuming we can find a third company, I have a hard time finding more. One of the problems with the current contract that we've been using is that he only does Cooper service. He doesn't do any kind of water testing other than testing the oxygen, which he's required to do by the state law.
All right, so his resources to us, and maybe he's outgrown, we've outgrown what he could do for us.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
The situation's changed. So what I think that we need to do is get a consensus from the board and give you some direction of what the board needs. So we're looking for another proposal? Does that sound good?
I have a question. I'm just looking at these, and explain to me, there are two proposals here in two different amounts, one
Right.
for about 35, one 38. The way I look at one, I thought one is the 3,500 is the annual.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Correct.
Correct.
right, and you said 75.
He said
75.
75.
Am I missing?
If we went with this
Round
guy
math.
here, and we ultimately said,
No, it's 75 for this year, and then, okay, and
Yeah,
then 3,500, got it.
Right, right, all
Each year thereafter.
Okay.
I was thinking you said 75, and then an additional 35, got it, okay.
No.
right.
And as I said, I wouldn't even necessarily recommend committing to the money for the aerators until we know a little bit more about what kind of electrical system they would need and that sort of stuff, which we could do in the spring if we needed to. The key, I think, is to get the ball rolling as far as the treatments are concerned. And as far as the removal of nutrient matter, and I think this is something that we're all concerned about, there are two issues you have to think about. One is that matter may well be polluted because it's getting runoff from Forest Avenue, comes right into the pond. And anytime you have those hydrocarbons from vehicles, there's a risk. And so if you were going to try to remove that through some sort of dredging, that could become extremely expensive just because of the dredging, and also because you'd have to pay more money to take it to a toxic waste site. And this has happened all around the county. I'm familiar with it from a number of cases over the years. Well, anyway, so it's something that if you can avoid having to deal with, other than, maybe raking it once in a while if there's a few, loose pieces that come up, as they will under any system. But the point of this, and I think we made it clear when we met with them, was that we want to have a system that arrives at a stable balance. There's another part to it which isn't included in this, which is something that we and the Friends of Rye-Town Park have to commit ourselves to, which is to educate the public regarding the importance of respecting it as a wildlife pond, not just as a duck pond. And that would mean not feeding bagels and white bread and leftover birthday cake, which we've seen all these things happening. Some days you go down there and the whole pond is filled with bagels floating around like little life preservers.
Well, unfortunately, you can put all the signs up that you want, but we've spoke about the dog situation down there, and people can care less.
So we're talking about educating, not necessarily telling them no.
Well, unfortunately, you have to tell them no, because you try to educate people, and unfortunately, you can put all the signs up that you want. People are still going to do what they want to do. So I think
well,
to keep the meeting flowing,
yeah.
What I'd like to do is try to give you some direction from the board. And that being said, I think, and just correct me if I'm wrong, maybe let's look to get one more proposal comparable.
Quick question and a comment. Question, maybe there's technical assistance available from New York State DEC?
I've contacted them already.
Okay, so they were kind of...
They're not very helpful.
And you may want to just throw this real quick. Yeah, I wasn't sure.
They're complaining about their own budget cuts and staff cuts and
we have
2% increases.
Worcester with environmental matters. But maybe you want to throw this out on BidNet, that Hudson Valley Purchasing Consortium with a 2-week return?
Well, if you give me the details, I'll be happy to do it.
Sure, I'll forward it to you in email. Maybe you get a competitive...
Let me just say that the details that are in the proposal, plus the additional details, which I'll be happy to send to all of you by email, which I just got today, make me feel more confident than even before in terms of what they're planning to do and how they're going to do it, because I think the level of testing, which they're going to be testing for a whole variety of different measures of pond health, is going to give us a better picture. And I think when I realize that education has to have some enforcement branch to it, but part of it is I don't think people realize when they look at the pond that there are these things that you don't really see that are in the water. But once you start coming up with some tests, and we're assuming that the phosphorus level and the nitrogen levels are going to be way up there. And I think that it's like, knowing that somebody's sick, but suddenly you realize, well, their blood pressure is like twice the normal. And then it becomes more meaningful to you that, gee, maybe if we didn't use all those bagels, maybe the situation would be better. So.
Okay, so from the board, I'll just say it, and I guess you can just echo me. We'll look to get at least one more response.
I'll do my best.
Response if we can.
Yeah.
And then I guess respond back to the board. Let's not wait to January's meeting, but respond to the board with what you found, just so we can have an actionable item on the January agenda. So the information is not going to come to the board a week before the meeting, and then it's a race.
I'll do the best I can, but it is the holiday season. You got to keep that in mind.
I understand. Well, at a minimum,
Yeah.
you could suggest to the board with the next couple of weeks, this is what I found. This is the holiday season. We need to make a determination by February 1st, so it has to happen in the January meeting. And then, we can go with the $3,500. At the minimum, we can go with the $3,500 opportunity to have these people get on board, get the permits, and get the pond safe. As Commissioner Salnitro said before, that we need to focus on the safety and health and the welfare. And if there's a less than perfect condition with the pond, obviously we need to take care of it.
Yeah, and with the grateful help of the Friends of Rye-Town Park, I think we all need to appreciate what they've been doing for us and are planning to continue to doing, and they're very much brought into the whole mission of this pond as being a valuable resource that will be another reason why people will like the park and want to come there and want to pay their $130 a year family permit fees.
And just as a frame of reference, right now, the gentleman that we have been paying to treat the pond post problem, if you will, has been about $2,200, which has been split between the Friends and the town of Rye.
So the difference...
So what you're comparing is a $3,500 proposal to a $2,200 proposal that doesn't seem to make any progress. Our feeling is the $3,500 version, because it comes with a lot more service, will get there.
Very good. Okay. That being said,
Thanks, Bill.
I think that Mayor French has some items.
Yeah, just a couple quick ones, hopefully. The garbage route, we've gotten some complaints about, I guess, the timing of the Portchester bringing up the garbage, and then there was a question about maybe Rye City could pick it up. I don't know, Bishop.
Yeah, there's a fundamental problem there, and that is that the Rye City does not have the roll-off equipment.
Right, no, we don't want it. That's what I'm verifying.
Right.
We don't want it if you guys have to get a contract or still work with Portchester. However, but it's not something that...
Is it the timing, the frequency, or the time of day?
Time of day.
Time of day. All right. Is there a way that maybe Mayor French and Mayor Pillock can work that out offline?
Yeah, that'd be, or just email Bishop if you wanted to just email Chris Russo. I know we're in the process of consolidating garbage routes.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure our availability will be getting better to do this type of stuff.
Okay.
But rather than to belabor the point now, I'd be happy to take it off.
Right.
But
Just shoot me
officially,
an email or something.
we probably couldn't do it less expensive than anybody else right now. So
Right.
So
Very good. So Bishop,
Okay.
will facilitate that. I guess work with Chris Russo.
Yep.
And keep the mayors informed, and then just let the board know the outcome, positive as it will be.
Terrific.
promotion of the January 7th community conversation. Can you send us all something that we can send out to our own community?
Absolutely. I think, Bill, do we have a draft?
The press release? you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I sent it out to the media, and I can send it to all the...
Oh, okay.
To the mayor, so we can send it to our own listeners.
Yeah.
Is it on the Rye-Town website?
It should be on the Rye-Town Park website and the Rye-Town website.
Very good.
Employee hiring. Now's the time of year where college kids are home for the next 4 or 5 weeks. Is there communication we can do about hiring for parking attendants, security guards? Do we actively promote that?
I will tell you what we've been doing for the last 4 years. We run ads in the Rye Sound Shore Review, in the Westmore News, and in the Journal News. We run them for the month of March, basically. April 1st to April 30th. We have an April 30th deadline for applications. Typically, we have gotten anywhere from about 150 to 125 applications each year. Those applications are then forwarded to the park staff. Remember, we don't even get park staff until right around April 15th. And at that point, they segment them out by preference. Some people actually just want lifeguard jobs. Some people would prefer.
But if you could summarize that in an announcement that
Sure.
you could then send to the schools while kids are home.
Good idea.
Sure, I'll give you the draft of our ad.
Our youth councils, right.
Sure.
That say, you call up now, but here's the process. You're not going to get hired, if that at all.
Yeah.
But here's the contact information, how it works.
Okay.
And one last thing. Now, we charge the city manager to look for ways, the Rye City manager, look for ways to get savings. One of the things that he had looked at was insurance coverage. Bishop, I don't know if it's savings or not. I'll defer to you on that, but I said I would bring it up tonight.
Okay.
One of the proposals the city of Rye got would save, I think, about $10,000, but there are pros and cons of both of these things, so I just
Right.
want to raise it to you.
Well, you have some additional information. My feeling here is it's a combination of timing and what people are looking at. The gentleman was, in fact, bidding against the 2011 pricing. Since then, for example, and let me just take you back to the financial report. Look at the insurance. You'll see $55,000 in there. All right, we just received about a week ago our capital repatriation. $4,360. So that will be coming off of that. The net cost there is going to be $51,000, maybe even a little bit less than that. We have a quote. I mean, Nymer has quoted, and I gave you a copy there. Our feeling here is that the insurance that was quoted by FOA was a little bit on the inferior side. If you looked at the deductibles, if you looked at some of the coverage, there were issues there which I had shared with Scott. And frankly, the commission, if you look on the next to last page of the NYMER proposal, and what I want to caution you on is don't take the capital repatriation, which they're including in here, as gospel. I mean, they could always take it back. That's something that would materialize next year. But, take even the raw quote. They're quoting roughly $46,000 versus FOA, which, again, for similar policies, they are not identical, and you'll see the analysis attached to each. But FOA, I think, is quoting something in the neighborhood of about $47,000.
So, I mean, it's your judgment call, right? I mean, I'm not
Yep.
looking to change, but I want to say this was something that was brought up, and
Yeah, and we appreciate the exercise was a good exercise. I did add...
Bishop, what it confirmed is that we're on track with what we're doing, okay? And on track in the sense that we're running the insurance with great coverage, responsible, good response from the provider, and for a good price, okay?
Yep.
That's right. And what this exercise did is confirm that, correct?
More or less, yeah. I think we're getting a competitive proposal. I also gave you a summary page. If you look on the front there, you can see from 2006 to 2012 what's happened with Rytown Park Insurance. We have not been letting this thing lay. It's just that it takes a while to get there.
And then I would suggest that put this on your calendar for 2012 to revisit this every year and to make sure that we're keeping the provider honest.
Yeah. No, and one other point I do want to make. I did manage to speak with Chris Bradbury, and what I would like is I will get you a proposal, but he shared the Village of Rybrook uses a independent risk manager to assess their insurance. He doesn't sell insurance. He doesn't get paid by insurance. He is purely an analyst that looks at and evaluates policies. So what we want to do is we want to try and have him take a look at these policies and see if he can help us. Now, that does come at a cost, and that's what we're going to try and find out is what's that cost for a one-time evaluation to say, boom, we don't want to use him necessarily for continued services, but we do want to use him as an expert in evaluating insurance policies.
Very good.
These are very different, by the way. NYMER, the New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal, is like a pool, a consortium of municipalities, so they are kind of tough to beat. But there are a number of differences in these policies, but it really isn't apples to apples. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. In closing, Mayor Phillip?
I just want to wish, first of all, I want to thank the Friends of Rytown Park for their generosity in general and specifically with the help on the park. I think that's a very important initiative. And I just want to wish everybody a very happy holiday, healthy and prosperous New Year. Thank you.
Mayor Feinstein?
I echo that as well, and I also want to thank the staff, all of the advisory committees in the city of Rye, the Rytown, the Friends of Rytown Park as well, and just wish everyone the best in the holiday season and a very good 2012.
Commissioner Salanitra?
One order of business, maybe for the next meeting, we wanted to talk about the rental policy and the, God bless you, the rental policy and the nonprofits moving forward.
okay.
We did say we wanted to form a policy. I think we should seriously look at that because it's coming. And with that, I'd also like to thank the hard work of the volunteers on the Rytown Park staff as well as the residents. You guys made a great success this year. I personally appreciate that. Wish everybody a healthy and happy New Year.
Mayor French?
So I'll be the Scrooge then. No, I think this was a fabulous year. Had it not been for really the weather, the terrible weather for a long stretch of time, we would have had great revenues and probably would have broken even. So I think that the model is working. But I do think that the pressures on governments, we're going to have to continue to change and evolve, that we're going to have to continue to look at the operation and revolve it even more and transform it even more. And so I think next year, we have to continue that momentum. And happy holidays, everyone.
Very good. This has been a great meeting. It's a very good progress. I really like the idea and the concept of creating that positive, friendlier signage and the enforcement of what we need people to do to be responsible park attendant, and to capture where Mr. Lawyer was talking about, let people know the ramifications of what happens to this park. Maybe show a picture of a dead duck. And I know it sounds silly, but you know what? Put bagel, a piece of cake, and a chocolate bar is a dead duck. And at the end of the day, maybe people will laugh about it, but they're going to remember it.
That's an idea.
And that's what you need to do, okay? You need to have a little shock value, and sometimes that goes a long way. Pictures are important. I tell you, this board, every time I sit at this meeting, I get re-energized, and I want to come to these meetings and open my mouth and get involved, but I don't. So, the charge that we have, Bishop, you're on board, working with Mayor French, Chris Russo regarding
Yep.
garbage.
Yep.
We're going to open up dialogue regarding the park fee schedule for January's meeting.
Yep.
Mr. Lawyer, you're on board with the aeration and that park with the pond. I say those are the big three in the fee schedule, and just so the board can have this information to make an educated decision and pretty much have some the opportunity to digest this information. One thing, Bishop, I'll say this: one of the obstacles that I see working with this board when I sit here is that the information does not get disseminated far enough in advance. Okay, so at the end of the day, if we don't have the information at least 2 weeks prior to the meeting, it doesn't get on the agenda. If it wants to be a discussion item and we can talk about it and not take action, that's great. But if there's going to be an actionable item for this board, I think it needs to hit at least 2 weeks before.
At least a week.
I'll take a week before.
Yeah, I'll take a week.
Okay.
It doesn't have to
The
be
day
weeks.
before it doesn't
Right.
work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Solid
1 week.
Before, if we could do 2 weeks, that's great. So anyway, everybody, happy Hanukkah, happy healthy New Year, and thank you again to the volunteers for all you've done. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you
No
very
need to
much.
call the roll.
Thank you very much. That was okay. Excellent.
right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good meeting.